Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Constitutional Court has ruled that the criminal trial should go ahead for the 3 soldiers charged with the murder of chartered accountant Keith Clarke. Mr. Clarke was killed in 2010 during the search for then-fugitive Christopher Douglas Coke. TVJ's Andrew Chisholm reports.
The trial of Corporal Odell Buckley, Lance Corporal Greg Tingling and Private Arnold Henry was halted for the court to decide if their certificates of immunity were valid. The certificates were signed in 2016 by former National Security Minister Peter Bunting. Here's Justice Leighton Pusey with the ruling.
A majority of the court concludes that 1. In the circumstances of this case, the issuing of the good faith certificates was manifestly unfair and unreasonable, and therefore the good faith certificates are null, void, and invalid. 2. The defendants, this is the first 3 defendants, may not rely upon the good faith certificates at the trial of this matter.
The certificates were issued after the soldiers were charged for the fatal shooting of Keith Clarke on May 27, 2010. Mr. Clarke was shot at his Kirkland Heights home. Members of the security forces reportedly went to his house during the search for Christopher Douglas Coke, who was wanted by U.S. prosecutors.
That the good faith certificates or any certificate issued on the 22nd of February 2016 by the Minister of National Security outside of the emergency period were issued in circumstances that were manifestly unreasonable and unfair and are therefore null and void and without effect.
In the meantime, the court also ruled on the powers of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions despite certificates of immunity.
The Minister's power to issue good faith certificates under the emergency powers regulations do not infringe and are not in conflict with the principle of separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution. 2. The emergency powers regulations do not infringe on the prosecutorial powers of the Director of Public Prosecutions under the Constitution. 3. The criminal proceeding should be restored to the trial list.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has responded to the protests for water in southeast Clarendon. Over the weekend, residents of Salt River took to the streets to demand the precious commodity. They say they've been without consistent water supply for too long and want it addressed. The issue of water in southeast Clarendon has been placed at the forefront of the ongoing by-election campaign in southeast Clarendon.
I can't get to everybody all at once, but rest assured, this government has a commitment to increase continuously the resources for rural water supply development and to increase the pace at which we deliver those projects. So all the people demonstrating and, Roddy broke them bad with the demonstration business. Well, even in urban areas. And, demonstrations are a part of the political landscape. I'm not here appealing to anybody not to exercise your right for civil protest once you do it within the law. What I have to do as a political leader and the Prime Minister of the country is to improve the pace of delivery of public service to the people so that the people don't have to protest.
Residents of Taws Meadows in St. Catherine are pleading with the health authorities to urgently resolve a sewage problem which has been plaguing their community. TVJ's Anthony Lugg reports.
Overflowing manholes, whether open or shut, are the nightmare residents of the Taws Meadows community in St. Catherine have been living with for the past 3 months. When our news team visited the community, we were greeted with the stench from raw sewage that could easily be seen on the streets in the area. The residents complain that the issue worsens whenever they attempt to flush their toilets.
When one bathroom flush, we know, because everything come up, and we can't say nothing.
When you look and see it float up, and mosquitoes or whatever, so we have a lot of, the bathroom flush, it run over. People come just and look and say, wow, look upon this man, see the grass, can't chop out, nothing cannot do to it yet. Because it won't, as a quint and we flush the bathroom, it's up. hop, just a bubble.
The government is on a drive to rid the country of the dengue outbreak, and the residents believe their community has been forgotten.
You can't live under this with so much children here, and they won't come until somebody die, or they hear children die or somebody die of it, and we are tired of it. So a couple months we are under this well. It's the best of it now. And we have our MP, and no matter how we send it on phone or whatever, we don't get no response.
Something wrong. And about 3 months now, this have to stop, man. My God, we need Wally for help around here, man.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Nearly 400 teachers have left the classrooms in September, and the figure is expected to grow. While addressing the issue in TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Owen Speed, says it's a worrying trend. TVJ's Prince Moore has the details.
Mr. Speed says the shortage of teachers is affecting the education system. While commending the Education Ministry for considering measures to alleviate the crisis, he said there are other suggestions being made that would not be effective.
One of the suggestions that was made by the Honourable Minister is that he would be thinking of merging some classes. If you merge classes, then it's overload on the teachers, because already you have classes with 45. And if you're going to merge two classes with 45 or 30, even 30, you're gone all the way up to 60. The ratio in schools should be ideally 1 to 25.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who is currently the Minister of Education, recently announced that 51 retired teachers will be brought in to help fill the gaps. Mr. Speed addressed concerns about whether these teachers are familiar with the new PEP curriculum.
Those retired teachers would have been experts in the field. They know the subject areas. And mainly you have the retired teachers in the high school setup, not dealing with those in the primary schools doing PEP. So, because what you find is that in the primary schools, it's easier to have replacements for those teachers than to get specialist teachers for the high school setup.
Meanwhile, he renewed calls for Prime Minister Andrew Holness to appoint an education minister. He noted it's approaching 1 year and the Prime Minister has not been active within his role.
I don't think this Prime Minister is very serious about education. He has held on to the responsibility, I don't know why. The fact of the matter is that he has to put more belief in the men around him. And I would like to say clearly that if his cabinet is so shallow, then maybe he needs a break front.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on Midday News. We'll be right back. Welcome back, continuing the news. The police in St. James is cautioning political parties against extending their times for rallies or spot meetings. It comes as the country prepares for a general election, although it's constitutionally due in 2021. Deputy Superintendent Ainsley McCarthy says the police will be enforcing the Noise Abatement Act, which must be adhered to by all.
During the period of campaign, no political meeting can be held beyond midnight. And midnight is only for the period of time between nomination day and the day before election. For public meetings that has political tones, it is 11 o'clock.
The agriculture sector is bracing for the worst in the coming weeks amid a forecast that the current dry spell in sections of the island will continue until April. Farmers are worried that the crop production will be affected due to the decline in rainfall in a manner similar to last year. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, says while most farmers have been coping with the dry conditions, that could change by early next month.
There's evidence of some level of dryness. I don't know if it is fair to call it drought as yet, but it is getting very dry along the St. Catherine Plain, parts of Portland and St. Mary along the north coast, but up in the hills like in Guysdale and all of that where you have the Irish potato belt, they are getting rain. Areas around Brownstown, Claremont are having, fairly frequent shower, at least a shower per week. So we are not yet seriously affected by the drought. And St. Elizabeth itself is having a dry spell in the St. Elizabeth Plains, most of South St. Elizabeth. But it has not reached the proportion where we would yet say the drought is seriously affecting production. If it continues, however, for another 2 weeks, it will be devastating.
At the height of last year's dry spell in July, it was revealed that nearly 6,000 farmers were affected. The Barbados-based Climate Outlook Forum recently warned of a long-term drought in the region. It said Jamaica will be among the affected countries. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, the NSWMA, is reiterating the call for citizens to properly dispose of their garbage. The call comes amidst concerns raised at the agency's annual training session held recently at the Medallion Hall Hotel in St. Andrew. Operations Director at the NSWMA, Aretha McFarlane, explained that improper garbage disposal, especially the disposal of needles, poses a health hazard for sanitation workers.
Coming out of the meeting, we have been hearing a number of concerns from our crew. It ranges from the needles that people are disposing of in the garbage. People are being stuck by needles. We have complaints about people throwing dog feces in the garbage, and just generally how people litter the areas.
And another concern are skips.
People just throw the garbage all over, and when they go to a site to clear that area, it takes them up to 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours in order to clear the area. So they're saying it is taking them too long, and they're calling on the residents of Jamaica to properly containerize their garbage, because it will help with the overall efficiency and the turnaround time for collections.
In the meantime, Ms. McFarlane said several training sessions will be conducted across all 4 regions to focus on safety.
The NSWMA believes that the work that our people do, it is important that they are trained in safety. They are to observe safety while on the job, and we encourage them to observe off the job as well.
In sports, reggae boy Darren Mattox is expected to return to court on February 27 to face charges after being slapped with 2 felonies in the American state of Pennsylvania. The 29-year-old FC Cincinnati player has been charged with 1 count of making a false, fraudulent or incomplete insurance claim and another count of theft by deception. According to court documents, the complaint against Mattox was first filed on December 5 last year, in which bail was set at $50,000. Mattox has scored 18 goals in 49 appearances for the Reggae Boys. Head coach of FC Cincinnati, Ron Yans, said last month that Mattox would not be part of his plans for the 2020 season of the MLS. And that's the Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for Primetime News on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.